It is fair to say that many people are feeling isolated at the moment. Even though maintaining your distance is the best way you can show your love for others at the moment, humans are by nature social animals, and everyone is missing a little human contact. There have been times in history, though, where people, either by their own choice or very much against their will, have been separated from others. Whether it was for a long time or by a vast distance, here are 7 of the most isolated people who ever lived. Blanche Monnier. Blanche Monnier never had any intention of living a life of sequestration. Born into a well-off French family in 1849, she had all the gifts of money and beauty. Unfortunately, she also had the cruelest mother imaginable. In 1874, when she was 25 years old, Blanche announced to her mother that she intended to marry. Her choice of husband, a mere lawyer, did not meet with Madame Monnier's approval. To force Blanche to change her mind, Madame Monnier locked Blanche in a tiny room in the attic of the family home. Blanche's mother and brother continued to live a normal life while Blanche lived in a squalor above. Madame Monnier apparently thought that Blanche would relent of her decision to marry after some time alone to think about it, but she never did, and so her mother never released her. It seemed as if Blanche suddenly disappeared from the face of the earth, or at least Paris. None of her friends knew where she was. Her mother and brother mourned her and continued with their daily lives. Soon, Blanche was forgotten. Years passed. The lawyer she loved passed away, and Blanche's fate remained a mystery. Until one day in 1901, after spending 25 years in her attic cell, when the Attorney General of Paris received a strange anonymous note saying, "Monsieur Attorney General, I have the honor to inform you of an exceptionally serious occurrence. I speak of a spinster who is locked up in Madame Monnier's house, half-starved and living on a putrid litter for the past 25 years. In a word, in her own filth." The home was raided. Blanche was found living in her own filth and weighing little more than 55 pounds. Her rescuers said the unfortunate woman was lying completely naked on a rotten straw mattress. All around her was formed a sort of crust made from excrement, fragments of meat, vegetables, fish, and rotten bread. We also saw oyster shells and bugs running across Mademoiselle Monnier's bed. The air was so unbreathable. The odor given off by the room was so rank that it was impossible for us to stay any longer to proceed with our investigation. Blanche was saved from her isolation but remained ill and mentally unbalanced, dying in hospital in 1913. German soldier survives entombment of 6 years in Nazi concrete bunker. In 1945, Nazis found themselves at the verge of defeat in a village named Baby Dolly, located in northern Poland. They started to retreat. Before retreating, they dynamited the underground storehouse entrance. But little did they know that 6 German soldiers were still inside the bunker. They are believed to have been looting the storehouse, and the retreating soldiers who dynamited the tunnel did not know they were there. They got trapped. The trapped men had no tools for which to dig their way out of the concrete bunker. Air entered the tomb through an air vent undamaged by the explosion. Water trickled through cracks, and the men had plenty of food and other goods. 2 of the soldiers ended their own life a few months after. 2 others of the trapped soldiers died of unknown causes, but they lived in darkness for 2 years after their supply of candles was exhausted. After 6 years, on the 18th of June 1951, Polish workers were clearing wreckage from the entrance to the depot at Baby Dolly near Gdynia when they stumbled upon 2 6-foot bearded, blinded, and blubbering soldiers. The second survivor dropped dead of shock on emerging into the daylight after staying in darkness for 2 years. The final soldier was rushed to Gdynia's Akademia Hospital, said to have regained his health and eyesight, but his identity was never revealed. Unknown Amazon Indian. Imagine living on your own in complete silence, always on the run, always fearful, invisible to the world. This is daily life for one solitary man, thought to be around 50 in the Amazon. He's the sole survivor of his tribe. We don't know who he is, the name of his tribe, or what language he speaks. His people were probably massacred by cattle ranchers who were invading the region at breakneck speed. Researchers discovered several of the man's huts, all with deep rectangular holes dug within them, digged to trap animals. This is not something any other tribe had ever seen to do. After enduring the violence and destruction that wiped out the rest of his tribe, the indigenous man in the hole just wants to be left in solitude. No contact has been made with the man, though video footage of him has been taken in 2018. Every time tree loggers get too close, he would move to a new hut further in the forest. One attempt by the loggers to talk with him ended with the Indian firing an arrow into his leg. It is Brazilian policy not to force contact on tribes that do not want it. It looks as if this man will continue to live alone. Thomas Silverstein. When solitary confinement is imposed on a prisoner, it can either be for their protection or the protection of guards and other inmates. It can also be a punishment used to force good behavior. Thomas Silverstein became a legend of the American penal system when he spent the last 36 years of his life locked away alone. Some will say he deserved it. Others will feel he was punished in a cruel and unusual manner. He was first put in prison for a robbery that netted him only a few $100s, but once behind bars, he was never to be freed. Joining the Aryan Brotherhood of white nationalists in prison, he participated in the killings of other inmates. For this, he received additional life sentences. After the killing of a correction officer, Silverstein was placed in solitary confinement and was to be given no human contact. He was held in windowless underground cell until released in a prison riot. Once order was restored, Silverstein was placed in solitary confinement again, with minimal room to exercise. A court case was brought on his behalf that what he was undergoing was unconstitutional, but since other prisoners were also placed in solitary confinement, Silverstein's treatment was judged to be legal. He died on May 11, 2019, well before his theoretical release of 2095. North Pond Hermit hid from people for 27 years. Christopher Thomas Knight, born December 7, 1965, also known as the North Pond Hermit, is a former recluse and burglar who lived without human contact for 27 years, between 1986 and 2013 in the North Pond area of Maine's Belgrade Lakes. During his seclusion, Knight lived within a mile of summer cabins and a crude camp he built in a well-drained woodland obscured with a cluster of glacial erratic boulders. Having entered the woods with almost no possessions, he set up a camp compound entirely of items stolen from nearby cabins and camps. For many years, a shady figure lurked in the dark surroundings of a rural town who was stealing from homes and fleeing from people. Nobody ever saw the person, even less knew who was behind of that. The only thing that people knew is that they were afraid and the police were unable to stop him. He survived by committing approximately 1,000 burglaries against houses in the area at a rate of approximately 40 per year, to be able to survive during the harsh winters of Maine. Apart from the fear and notoriety his many burglaries created in the local area, Knight's unusual life also attracted widespread international media reports upon his capture. Journalist Michael Finkel wrote an in-depth story about the incident for the GQ magazine, and later wrote a book titled The Stranger in the Woods, the extraordinary story of the last true hermit. Mauro Morandi. Millions of people around the world are under isolation orders based on the current situation of the world, but one man has spent the past 3 decades in isolation, by choice. In 1989, Mauro Morandi's catamaran, engine crippled and anchor adrift, washed up on the coast of Budeli Island, located on a stretch of water between Sardinia and Corsica. As luck would have it, Morandi learned that the island's caretaker was retiring from his post, so he sold his boat and assumed a new role. 31 years later, Morandi remains the sole resident and guardian of the island. "I will never leave. I hope to die here and be cremated and my ashes scattered in the wind," says Morandi, who is now 81. He believes all life is eventually reunited with the earth, that we are all part of the same energy, which propels Morandi to remain on the island without compensation. He finds solace in the introspection it affords him, and often sits on the beach with nothing but the sounds of the wind and waves to punctuate the silence. Morandi passes his time with creative pursuits. He fashions juniper wood into sculptures, finding faces hidden in their nebulous forms. He reads zealously and meditates. When Wi-Fi inevitably found its way to his nearly unpopulated island, Morandi adopted it and began sharing his beloved piece of paradise with the world through social media. Alfred Worden. We currently share our planet with 7.5 billion other people. There is only so far you can ever truly get away from another person. To get some true isolation, you have to head upwards. Most astronauts never leave near-Earth orbits, so are only tens of miles up in the sky, and even they have companions on their trips. Alfred Weston, who remained in the Apollo 15 command module, has been dubbed the most isolated human ever. While his fellow astronauts went for a stroll on the lunar surface, he remained in orbit. As the module had passed to opposite side of the moon, he was 2,235 miles away from them, not to mention 240,000 miles from everyone else. While the moon was between him and every other human in existence, Worden could not receive radio messages. He was totally alone. Not that he minded it. I was alone, but I was not lonely. My background was as a fighter pilot in the Air Force, then as a test pilot, and that was mostly in fighter airplanes, so I was very used to being to myself. I thoroughly enjoyed it. He died on March 18th, 2020.
Enter the iPad 9.7 Pro giveaway contest. All you need to do is leave a like and comment. Hit a subscribe button and make sure that the bell notification is turned on. The giveaway link is in the description.